when you sit down to play a massive open world video game, there's usually this moment early on where you kind of have to figure out what kind of universe you're actually inhabiting.
Right, the boundary testing phase.
Exactly. You start testing the boundary. You're like,
Yeah.
are there rules here? If I, steal this item from a merchant, do the town guards come running?
Or do they just ignore you?
Yeah. Or is this just a pure sandbox mode where you can cause absolute chaos, set the town on fire, and the game engine simply doesn't care at all?
Right.
So for you, the listener, today we are taking that exact question, but applying it to the actual universe you and I live in. Is reality operating on a strict, verifiable moral code? Or is it, a free-for-all sandbox where absolutely anything goes?
It's basically the ultimate question of consequence, isn't it? We are essentially trying to figure out if we are being graded or if the classroom is completely empty and we're just, well, talking to ourselves.
I mean, that is the perfect way to frame it. And to explore this, we are jumping into a really fascinating piece of source material today. We've got this intriguing 2019 essay by an author named Su Feng, and it's titled, "If There Is No Retribution, There Will Be No Natural Law."
It's quite a title.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this author's entire framework for how the universe supposedly rewards and punishes us. We're going to look at how he claims you can actually test this in your daily life.
Which gets pretty wild.
Oh, it gets very specific. And ultimately, we'll look at the rather intense predictions he makes for the future based on this theory. But before we get into all that.
Yeah, I should probably jump in here. Before we dive into the actual mechanics of Su Feng's framework, we definitely need to set some expectations regarding the text itself.
Good call.
We are going to be exploring an essay that contains deeply philosophical, religious, and politically charged content. The author weaves in, everything from modern political systems like communism to religious figures like Jesus and Buddha.
And some heavy historical stuff, too.
Exactly, alongside some very heavy historical events. So we want to make it absolutely clear to you, the listener, that we are acting entirely as impartial guides today. We are not taking sides.
Right.
Nor are we endorsing the specific viewpoints or the predictions made in this text. We are simply unpacking the logical architecture the author has built to understand how he views the cosmos.
100%. We're just looking at the blueprints. So let's start with the foundation of that architecture. The author sets up this massive, high-stakes binary right out of the gate.
Two core concepts.
Yeah, two core concepts that everything else in his theory rests on, which are natural law and retribution. Let's define the first one. Natural law, in this framework, is presented as the operational law of the universe.
Basically the physics of morality.
Exactly. It's described as the reward and punishment mechanism of Tao for all lives. But the text is really quick to point out that natural law is super elusive. It is shapeless, formless, invisible, intangible, and inaudible.
We should probably pause on the word Tao there, because dropping a massive philosophical term like that without context can be a little confusing.
Yep, please do.
So in this specific framework, you can think of the Tao as the ultimate underlying source code of reality. It's not, a deity sitting on a throne somewhere.
Right.
It's the fundamental hum of existence, the absolute truth and operational engine that keeps the entire universe running. And natural law is just the set of rules generated by that source code.
But because it's invisible, because you can't, put natural law under a microscope or measure it with a ruler, the author introduces the second half of the binary, which is retribution.
Exactly. If natural law is the hidden source code, retribution is what actually happens on your screen.
The text defines retribution as the exact, specific rewards and punishments given by natural law based on a life's thoughts, words, and deeds. It's the physical manifestation of the invisible rule.
And the author makes a really profound conditional claim here. He states that the existence of natural law depends entirely on the existence of retribution. Meaning, if there is no retribution, then natural law is just a myth. It doesn't exist.
So going back to that video game analogy from the beginning, the author is essentially arguing that we need to look for that hidden karma meter running in the background.
Yep.
And if we can't find concrete proof that this meter is moving, if our actions don't result in specific, measurable consequences, then we really are just playing in sandbox mode, where our choices have zero cosmic weight.
The text even explicitly states that if you find there is no retribution, then you can just go ahead and do whatever you want.
Which is a bold thing to write.
It is. He's laying down a strict philosophical challenge here. We cannot just take these cosmic rules on blind faith. If natural law is real, it has to leave footprints in the real world.
You have to be able to see it.
Right. We
Yeah.
have to be able to observe human society, the rise and fall of nations, the joys and sorrows of individual people, to verify if that cosmic scale is actually balancing out. He's arguing for a worldview where cosmic justice isn't some big mystery, it's a tangible equation waiting to be calculated by observation.
And that brings us to the methodology. Because if the author is demanding that we observe the footprints of natural law, he has to provide a way to actually track them.
Right. You need a test.
Exactly. The text says verification can be done through logical reasoning and the observation of large samples. And he provides some highly specific examples of how to run this test. And I have to admit, these threw me for a bit of a loop initially.
They are definitely unconventional.
The first example he offers is what I'll just call the snake test.
Ah, yes, the snake test. It's a fascinating look into how the author views the mechanics of consequence.
The text claims that if a person kills a snake and then ends up having no son, we have a data point.
Just 1 point.
Right. But if we observe this across many people who kill snakes, and we find that most of them have no sons, or that their sons suffer accidents, we can deduce a connection.
And if it's a common phenomenon, retribution exists.
Exactly. But my initial reaction reading this was, this sounds a lot like an old wives' tale. Like, why snakes? And why would the specific punishment be the lack of a son?
It's a fair question. To understand the author's logic here, we have to look at how this framework views life forces and cosmic balancing. In a lot of traditional philosophical frameworks that align with this kind of thinking, all life has a specific karmic weight.
Okay.
The snake, specifically, is often viewed as a creature with a very potent, concentrated spiritual energy or life force. It holds a significant place in that hierarchy. So the logic is that taking that specific life unjustly creates a severe disruption in the perpetrator's own biological and spiritual lineage.
Oh, I see.
The scales demand a one-to-one balancing. You severed a vital life force, therefore your own line of succession, which is represented traditionally in this context by the birth of a son, is severed or severely disrupted.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a random punishment from the sky. It's meant to be a direct mechanical balancing of the scales. A life for a lineage.
Precisely.
And the text goes even deeper into biological mechanics with the second test, which involves married couples and what the author calls auras.
This one is really interesting.
It's so specific. The claim here is that the gender of a baby is determined by which partner's aura is stronger at the exact time of conception. And this aura is directly correlated to the degree of love and respect they have for each other.
Yeah, the underlying mechanism he's proposing here is all about energy fields and emotional friction.
How does that work?
Well, the text outlines that if a wife has a low degree of love and respect for her husband, her aura becomes strong.
Wait, low respect means a strong aura.
Exactly, because when you lack respect for someone, you are constantly on the defensive. Your ego is inflated and it creates this hardened, prominent energy shield that's the strong aura, and consequently, according to the text, they will have a daughter.
Fascinating.
But if her respect is high, her ego softens. Her energy becomes receptive and harmonious, resulting in a weak aura, and they will have a son. And the mechanics work the exact same way in reverse for the husband.
So a lack of respect creates a defensive, strong aura, which dictates the biological outcome of the child. I mean, I was really hung up on how specific and honestly strange these metrics sounded at first.
Sure, they sound like folklore.
They do. But looking at it through the lens of falsifiability kind of changes things entirely. The author is essentially turning every maternity ward and every family lineage into a massive testing ground for his theory.
That's the key right there.
He's stating that whether the aura principle is true needs to be verified from a large number of cases. If facts prove it, retribution exists.
He is basically inviting you to be a cosmic auditor. The actual content of the test, whether it involves snakes or auras or whatever, is almost less important than the structure of his argument.
Right.
In science, a theory must be falsifiable. There must be some test you can run that could potentially prove it wrong. He isn't just sitting on a mountaintop demanding blind allegiance. He's saying, here are the metrics, go run the numbers yourself.
And the scope of those numbers expands drastically as we move through the text. We shift from these interpersonal, family-level tests to a massive, macroscopic critique of modern society.
He zooms way out.
He really does. He notes that young people today, due to a lack of experience, don't inherently understand retribution. They need elders to teach them to be incredibly careful with how they eat, walk, speak, and think, or else retribution will catch up with them.
It's a very cautious way to live.
Yeah, but the primary landscape where the author sees this playing out, where he thinks the karma meter is just spinning wildly out of control right now, is the internet.
Oh, absolutely. The digital landscape provides him with the ultimate case study in accumulating moral debt.
He observes this relentless universal viciousness online. He notes this modern phenomenon where no matter who you are, what you say, you will be scolded.
It's inescapable.
It is. He gives this really vivid list. He says, if you are sincere, you get scolded. If you preach Jesus or Buddha, you get scolded. If you promote the goodness of communism or respect your ancestors or simply speak the honest truth, you get scolded.
He even writes that if gods, Buddhas, celestials, and saints appeared online today, they would be scolded too.
Which, honestly, is probably true. The text describes this cursing as bringing bitter winds and miserable rains. It creates an environment so hostile that good people are forced to bow their heads, thinkers are afraid to write, and average people are just terrified away from doing good deeds.
It's a real chilling effect.
And the author doesn't isolate this toxicity to cyberspace. He connects a digital vitriol directly to real-world physical aggression. He catalogs a whole series of modern societal sins.
Like demolishing people's houses.
Yes, demolishing houses, injecting fake vaccines into children, adding drugs to food, scamming people out of money, dumping garbage into rivers. Reading this massive list of corruption and cruelty, my first thought was that the author must believe natural law has broken down.
Like the system has failed.
Yeah. If all this evil is happening, the sandbox rules are off, right? But the text pivots in the exact opposite direction.
This is a crucial point. The author catalogs these modern evils specifically to reassure the reader that the system is fully operational.
Wait, really? Reassure them?
Yes. He explicitly writes, but you do not need to worry. Every single fake vaccine, every polluted river, every vicious internet comment is being meticulously recorded by the Tao.
The invisible ledger.
Exactly. The perpetrators are racking up a massive cosmic debt. If natural law is real, the bill for all of this is inevitably coming in the mail. It's actually a profound message of reassurance for anyone who feels bullied or marginalized by modern corruption.
So if the universe is keeping this flawless ledger of all the modern aggression, the immediate question for the listener is, when is the due date? We see people dumping garbage in rivers or scamming the public, and they often seem to live out their lives in total luxury.
They get away with it.
Right. If the bill is coming, why aren't they being struck by lightning right now?
And that's where the author's timeline for cosmic justice requires a complete shift away from our human understanding of time. He states definitively that retribution cannot be controlled by anyone, regardless of their power or status.
Not even emperors.
Especially not emperors. To prove this, he points to some of the heaviest, most unavoidable downfalls in human history.
He pulls from a massive historical record here. He cites millions of the Ming Dynasty imperial family being killed. He brings up Feng Xiaoru, whose entire family across 10 clans was executed.
10 clans? That's just staggering.
It is. He mentions Emperor Chongzhen hanging himself, Ceausescu being shot in Romania, and Saddam Hussein being hanged. It's a really heavy list of dictators, emperors, and entire dynasties being wiped out.
We have to look at how the author connects these specific historical downfalls to his concept of accumulated debt. Let's take the execution of Feng Xiaoru's 10 clans, for example.
Yeah, explain that one, because that sounds insane.
In Chinese history, the execution of 9 clans was the absolute most severe punishment imaginable. It meant killing basically everyone, even distantly related to the offender. But Feng Xiaoru offended the Yongle emperor so deeply that the emperor ordered his students and friends to be rounded up and executed as a historically unprecedented 10th clan.
Wow. Just sweeping up his friends and students, too.
Right. Now, to the average observer, this is just a story of a cruel, absolute monarch doing terrible things. But within the author's framework, this extreme, almost unimaginable historical violence is the violent balancing of a cosmic scale.
Oh, I see.
It's the sudden, catastrophic collection of a debt that had been quietly accumulating in the background for years, perhaps generations.
And the same logic applies to people like Saddam Hussein or Ceausescu. I mean, they operated with absolute impunity for decades. To the people suffering under them, it probably felt like natural law was a total myth.
Like the sandbox had no rules.
Exactly. But the author's point is that the math eventually caught up with them in the most dramatic, inescapable ways possible.
Because the mechanism of retribution is absolute, but its timeline is entirely indifferent to human impatience. The text explains that some retribution is immediate, But some takes decades, centuries, or even thousands of years to arrive.
Thousands of years.
Yeah. We are instructed to look across time and space, not just at one person in one single lifetime.
But that presents a massive dilemma for the average person listening to this, trying to live a good life today. A justice system that takes 1,000 years to issue a verdict feels incredibly frustrating.
It's very unsatisfying.
Right. If the punishment for a corrupt executive falls on their distant descendants 3 centuries from now, how does that satisfy our very human need for fairness today?
It doesn't, and that's the point. The tension comes from us trying to force a cosmic scale mechanism into a human scale time frame.
We want next day shipping on justice.
Exactly. But natural law does not operate on a quarterly earnings schedule or a human lifespan. The delay is not a glitch in the system. The delay is the system. The author is suggesting that true justice is so massive and factors in so many unseen variables that it cannot be rushed. It requires the canvas of centuries to fully resolve.
It demands a perspective where you are just one tiny gear in a watch that takes a millennium to tick forward 1 second.
That's a great way to put it.
And just as you start to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this slow-moving cosmic game, the author makes a really dramatic rhetorical shift. He gathers up all the philosophical chips he's been slowly accumulating throughout the essay, and he shoves them all into the center of the table.
The big bet.
Yes. The essay concludes with what I can only call the ultimate ultimatum.
Up until the very end, the text operates in the realm of broad philosophical theory and historical retrospective. But then, he turns his focus entirely to the future.
Right. He looks at the current accumulation of modern sins we discussed earlier, the fake vaccines, the internet toxicity, the systemic corruption. And based on his absolute belief in the retribution mechanism, he foresees a catastrophe coming specifically for the Chinese nation.
He moves from the abstract nature of the Tao to a highly localized, definitive doomsday prediction.
Which is wild.
He calculates that the specific moral debt accumulated in that region has reached a critical mass. In his view, the ledger is so unbalanced that a catastrophic event is the only mathematical way the universe can correct it.
The ultimate bet he places is staggering. He states that if this catastrophe does not happen, then natural law simply does not exist, and people are entirely free to do whatever they want.
All bets are off.
I was genuinely surprised by the sheer confidence of this move. It is one thing to argue that the universe balances its scales over thousands of years. It's another thing entirely to bet the validity of your entire philosophical architecture on one single future historical event.
It's the ultimate manifestation of the falsifiability test he introduced with the snakes and the auras.
Bringing it full circle.
He spent the entire essay arguing that natural law must be verified through observation. He gave us the small-scale tests for the individual and the family. Now, he's offering the macroscopic test for a whole society.
Right.
He's putting his theory on the line. Either the universe balances its checkbook through a massive, observable event, or morality, as defined by this hidden law, is an illusion.
If the repo man doesn't show up, the debt was never real to begin with. It's an all-or-nothing proposition that forces you to evaluate everything he has built up in the text. Let's take a breath and recap the journey we've just been on.
It's been a lot.
It has. We started by unpacking the author's binary worldview. Natural law as the hidden underlying source code of reality, and retribution as the tangible, observable execution of that code.
We explored the methodology he proposed for verifying this hidden law, digging into the mechanics behind the snake test and the aura test to understand how he views biological and spiritual balancing.
We then moved into his critique of the modern world, examining how the toxicity of cyberspace and real-world corruption are, in his framework, piling up a massive, inescapable cosmic debt.
And we looked at the vast historical timeline of justice, analyzing how the downfalls of emperors and dictators serve as proof that the cosmic scale eventually balances, even if it takes centuries.
And finally, we face down his bold all-or-nothing prediction, where he bets the very existence of his philosophical framework on a future societal catastrophe.
Examining a source like this is incredibly valuable because it challenges your fundamental perception of reality.
How so?
Well, regardless of whether you accept the author's specific mechanics or his future predictions, the text forces you to ask whether you view the events unfolding around you as random, chaotic noise or as the intricate workings of a precise, inescapable system of cause and effect.
It completely changes the lens through which you view a corrupt politician, a tragic historical event, or even just, an angry comment on your social media feed.
It really does.
So, for you listening, if this author is right, and the universe's karma meter is real, but operates on a timeline of centuries or even thousands of years.
Hmm.
How does that change the way you evaluate the consequences of your own daily actions? When you make a decision, when you treat a stranger with kindness or cruelty, are you optimizing your life for immediate visible results? Or are you playing the 1,000-year game?
That's a heavy thought.
It's definitely something to mull over the next time you test the boundaries of the sandbox. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.